Hey everyone, today I'm back with a new quarry. It's a vertical quarry like my previous one, but it has a whole lot of improvements. It is liquid proof, gravity block proof, and even dragon egg proof. In fact, the only things that can really break this quarry are immovable blocks like obsidian, spawners, and chests, and some special blocks like slime and redstone, but those don't really occur in nature. So what makes this quarry really special compared to my previous one is it can actually run in the overworld. So the main problem with vertical quarries is that they obviously let liquids fall down. And the problem with that is, well, lava and water are going to combine to create cobblestone, which is eventually going to break the quarry. And also, if you run this in the nether, then you're going to have some lava pockets everywhere. And those create a whole lot of light updates, which are really bad for your server. So something had to be done, but for a while people didn't really know how to fix this liquid issue. Ita had some really nice inspiration. He tried to do some self-returning block grabbers to handle the cobblestone issue, but his grabbers were really slow and they were also really hard to push forward. So just as I was about to give up, XCOM came up with a really nice idea. So his idea is to, before you try to grab a block, you first try to push it forward. So if I try to grab this block, then first I'm going to push it. Then obviously I'm not going to be able to grab it with the slime block because it's being pushed. But that doesn't matter, we'll grab it next time. So god damn it. If we try to push the next layer, then it's going to fail because there's more than push limit. So then that means we're going to be able to grab the block. And that's basically what happens in this quarry. Turns out it's actually really easy to implement this technique. All you need to do is to add some pistons and an observer below the grabbing slime block. So this would be the slime block that grabs the blocks usually. And if we try to send this forward, then this is going to push the blocks. But if these were already at push limit, because there's a whole lot of stone in there, then they would be grabbed in the next iteration. It's also really simple to do a return station on the top for that, because when this docks, it's going to be something like this. And all you need to do to remove those blocks from the flying machine is push them down, and then to trigger the observer, and then this is already ready to go down again. I also made a couple improvements to the TNT system. So I got a whole lot of comments on my previous quarry that all the TNT got shot at once, and because of that, a whole bunch of items got destroyed. And yeah, you're right, the rates of my previous quarry were about 75%. But I changed it in this quarry. So as you can see, the TNT gets shot in an alternating pattern. So by the time the second wave of TNT hits, then all the items over here are going to have enough time to get collected. And then we don't lose anything. Actually, we lose a bit of items. Some items land on top here, so we lose them, but that's pretty much unavoidable. The rates are still something like 95%, which is in my opinion pretty acceptable. The way we do the alternating thing in a somewhat compact way is that we have a single bud line here, but we can actually use that to create two signals, because here we have a T flip-flop linked to the bud line, and then these T flip-flops alternate, and that's what creates the alternating pattern. There's also something else that's new about the Tnt system. If I start it, then you're going to see that these TNT actually get shot forward. So in the previous quarry, they got dropped down, and this actually makes the quarry a bit shorter. So this one is only 18 blocks tall, so it fits reasonably well underneath the bedrock ceiling and the nether. The previous one was, I think, 25 blocks tall, so it's a pretty major improvement. There's also something nice that I want to show about the TNT system. So this is a technique that I haven't seen too many slimestoners use. The way I create the delay between the two shots of TNT and between duping and actually shooting it forward is that I actually use some back and forth flying machines. So if I start again, then you're going to see here we have a back and forth flying machine, and when it starts, it shoots the first TNT, and when it comes back, it shoots the second wave of TNT. And this is actually a really nice way to create delay, because if, say, I want to space out the two shots of TNT a bit more, then all I have to do is take this piston and move it a bit more back. And then I've maybe added like 5 or 10 seconds more to the delay. And this is actually useful if you want to make this quarry really long, because, let's stop it again. because then you might want to save a bit on the minecarts, because if you make this say 500 blocks long, then you're going to end up with way too many minecart entities and it's going to lag your server. So all you can do is just increase the delay here, increase the delay on the clock for the minecarts, and then you're good to go. And actually increasing the delay between the two shots of TNT doesn't make the quarry any slower, because the quarry, when it goes, let's start again. When it goes up and down, it waits for two different things before it sends the grabbers back down. So first it waits for a grabber to actually be docked in the station, and it waits also for the TNT to be finished. So if you're in the first few layers, then the grabbers are going to be much faster than the TNT system, so it's going to wait for the TNT system. But if you're like this in some layers more downwards, then the quarry actually doesn't wait for the TNT to be done. It just sends the grabbers back down immediately because the TNT is going to be way faster anyway. I also made some small quality of life changes to the quarry. So you might notice that this is the start and stop switch, by the way. You might notice that it's pretty easily accessible, and that's so that we can have a real line on the side. And then you can just use this, maybe link this to the minecart system so that you can easily start the quarry. The only thing you have to worry about for this is that you can't stop the quarry while it's trying to move forward. If you do that, it will crash. But it's pretty rare that the quarry moves forward, so it shouldn't be too much of a problem. You might also notice I made some changes to the minecart system, and that's actually to improve minecart stability. So it's possible while the quarry moves forward that some minecarts will get stacked together. So what this here does is there's a whole bunch of ghost rails. These guys don't really exist. But basically this is a minecart unstacker. Methods showed me a minecart unstacker a while back, and I actually wanted to use his in my contraptions, but unfortunately his unstacker was a bit too slow. So I did something pretty bad. Instead of making his unstacker just fast enough, I decided to make it as fast as I possibly could, which is, in hindsight, I shouldn't have done that. I just added a bunch of zero ticks in there, and well, I guess it's fast enough now, so it doesn't really matter. But yeah, I also added some changes on the other side for the minecarts. So sometimes in my previous quarry, it was possible that minecarts would end up on this side of the rails. And this is completely fixed now, so I added, first off, they curve towards the other side, because this quarry can actually only run in the south direction, so normally they end up on the other direction, so I had to curve the rails. And I also added this block over here, which prevents any minecarts from going that way. There's also some soul sand here that's also needed for other reasons. So yeah, the minecarts are way more reliable now. They don't ever glitch anywhere. There's also one last improvement over the last quarry, and that is the bottom. So you might notice that there's only a 2 high gap now. So in my previous one it was 4 high, now it's only 2 high, so it's a bit better. It's pretty, I guess, achievable to dig it by hand now, but you could also use a tunnel bore like Mango showed recently to mine for diamonds at the same time. The only problem if you do that is you need to put some slimestone underneath these things over here, so that, because right now they rely on the blocks to be stopped. I guess if you build this in survival, you're pretty much good enough at slimestone to build something underneath anyway. Other than that, the quarry is a bit like the previous one, where it doesn't need any side trenches, so it would be fine if it were just like that. But the problem is it can't handle liquids on the side. So if there were, say, some lava over here or some water, then it would eventually crash, because that would update the observers. So in the overworld and nether, it's better to actually dig a one wide trench on each side. But if you're doing this in the end, then you really don't need it. One last thing before I go. You might notice that this collection system here is made for the nether. It doesn't use any water, and there's a reason for that. So on SciCraft, we're actually going to be building this in the nether. So XCOM this summer has been digging bedrock like an absolute madman. He's removed like 3 or 4 million bedrock by now, and he's really the expert on bedrock breaking. I definitely recommend you watch his AFK bedrock breaker videos. And basically, what the plan is to have bedrock directly on the side, and this here would be an excavated area. And this is how we're going to run the quarry on SciCraft. Because of that, this quarry was designed with the Nether in mind, and if you want to run it in the overworld, there's some slight changes you might need to make. So you might notice there's a roof above, and this is actually to stop the skylight updates. So directly above the block grabbers, if you want to make this in the overworld, you have to put some solid blocks over here, here, and basically repeat this for every single block grabber. The reason for that is that skylight access is the main lag causer in overworld queries, and basically just take these something like this and link it to, I don't know, something in the back. I trust that if you build this in survival, you're probably good enough at Slimestone already. But yeah, this is that's it for my quarry. Thank you very much for watching. There will be exactly this world download in the description. And have a nice day.